I vividly recall the day Matthew walked into my life as clearly as if it were just yesterday. I was nestled in a small cafe, nursing the least expensive coffee they offered while trying to organize my scattered thoughts. That's when he entered, effortlessly resembling a character from a cinematic scene. There were no dramatic lights or soundtrack, just the jingle of the door and the blend of stale coffee and his aftershave filling the air. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, his smile brimming with charm as he gestured to the vacant chair opposite me. "Go ahead," I managed to respond, striving to maintain my composure despite the surprise of his unexpected arrival. We connected instantly, as seamlessly as two puzzle pieces fitting together. We shared countless interests, from marathon sessions of cheesy TV series to debates over the best pizza topping, undoubtedly pineapple. Our casual meetings quickly deepened into something more serious. It felt as though we had known each other for ages, and soon enough, marriage was a topic of serious discussion. However, the challenging part was yet to come. Meeting his parents was akin to entering a lion's den with a stake tied to my back. They had a peculiar way of smiling that seemed more like a silent judgment, assessing if I measured up to their standards. "You're the one Matthew can't stop talking about, huh?" his mother remarked, her tone more icy than welcoming. "Yep, that's me," I replied, doing my best not to be affected by her daunting presence. It didn't take long for them to express their wish for us to sign a prenup. I wasn't interested in their wealth, but their approach left a bitter taste in my mouth. "I'll sign your prenup," I told them, "but here's the condition. If one of us cheats, the cheater owes $320,000. Matthew's expression was one of utter shock, as if I had hit him with a cold, wet fish. "Babe, I'd never cheat on you," he assured me, looking utterly sincere. "Yeah, well, my ex said the same before I caught him red-handed," I retorted. It was all or nothing. Matthew eventually conceded, though his parents were less than pleased. We thought that settled it, but surprises were still in store. One evening, curled up on our creaky old couch, a piece we often talked about replacing but held too many dear memories, we were lost in planning our dream trip to Italy, the mundane hum of the TV a mere backdrop to our excited chatter. The idea of our trip to Catania was as thrilling as it was financially daunting. "Imagine it, Matthew. The food, the wine, the art. We have to go," I declared, my eyes sparkling with eagerness. Matthew pulled me closer with a chuckle. "Janice, you had me at food, but let's be real. Our bank account is more cut out for backyard camping than jet-setting to Catania." I playfully nudged him. "Then we'll save up. We can cut back on things we don't need, like your video games." Feigning horror, he replied, "Not the video games. Take my shirts, my shoes, even my precious coffee maker, but please spare the games." We both laughed. That was typical of us, dreaming big while embracing the simplicity of our lives, finding contentment not just in grand adventures, but also in the everyday joys. On Saturday mornings, Matthew tried his hand at cooking breakfast. He wasn't exactly a chef, but he had mastered the art of making scrambled eggs and toast, which he served with pride alongside his less-than-stellar coffee. "I'm feeling scrambled eggs today, what do you think?" he'd ask, heading to the kitchen. "Only if you promise not to burn the toast this time," I'd tease, taking over the coffee duties. One day, while we were doing the dishes, a mundane task made special by doing it together, Matthew broached a topic we had been skirting around. "Janice, we need to talk about, starting a family," he said, breaking the comfortable silence. I paused, a plate in hand. "I know. It's just scary, isn't it? What if it doesn't work out for us?" Matthew dried his hands on a towel and turned to face me. "Then we'll face it together. But we won't know until we try, right? How hard can it be?" He chuckled, a nervous affection in his voice. Famous last words, huh? That was us, facing whatever life threw at us together, even when his mom started dropping not-so-subtle hints about grandchildren. "Janice, dear, when are you going to give me some grandbabies? You're not getting any younger, you know," she'd say, her voice sweet but her intentions clear. I'd bite my tongue, flash a smile, and chirp, "We're on it, right, Matthew?" And he'd chime in, "Mom, chill out, okay? These things don't happen overnight." But as time passed, the pressure mounted, not just from his mom, but from within us as well. We both longed for a family, but things weren't falling into place as we had hoped. Our home often felt tense, with Kayla, Matthew's sister, adding to the strain. She had taken up the new hobby of making my life difficult, her sharp words cutting through the peace of our home. It all came to a head one Sunday during what was meant to be a serene and easygoing lunch. Right on cue, Kayla barged in uninvited just as we were about to start eating. The atmosphere tensed immediately as she stepped in, her eyes sweeping the room like she was surveying a battlefield. "Well, isn't this a quaint little setup?" she sneered, eyeing the modest meal I had prepared. Trying to keep the peace, I mustered a smile and focused on maintaining a calm facade amidst the brewing storm. "It's just a simple meal, Kayla. Nothing fancy. Please have a seat," I said as we gathered around the dinner table. Kayla wasted no time diving into her usual tirade. "You know, Janice," she started, her voice thick with condescension, "I was talking to Mrs. Kathleen the other day. Her grandson just became a dad. It made me think, when will you and Matthew have some good news for us? Time's ticking, you know." My cheeks burned with a mix of embarrassment and irritation. I looked to Matthew for support, but he seemed suddenly fascinated by his meal. "Mom, seriously," Matthew mumbled, though his words lacked conviction, and we all felt it. Unfazed, Kayla continued, "I hate to be blunt, but you're not getting any younger. You work hard for your money, Matthew. Why waste it on Janice if she can't fulfill her basic duties as a wife? Hiring help for cleaning and cooking would be much more efficient, don't you think?" That comment was the final straw. "I'm doing my best here, Kayla," I blurted out. "It's not like I don't want children. And as for the house and cooking, I didn't realize marriage came with a job description." Kayla scoffed. "Marriage isn't a free ride, Janice. You have responsibilities, and frankly, you're not meeting them." The air thickened with tension, and tears welled up in my eyes. But the deepest cut wasn't Kayla's biting words. It was Matthew's silence. When he finally spoke, it wasn't to defend me. "Mom's right. Maybe we should consider getting some help around here. It would take some pressure off you, too," he suggested. His words felt like a betrayal. I was starkly alone in this. As Kayla's visits became more frequent, so did her criticisms. She'd inspect every corner of our home, pointing out any flaw. "You call this clean?" she'd sneer. "Looks like a pigsty to me." Then came the jabs about my appearance. "Is that what you're wearing? A wife should dress to please her husband. No wonder Matthew seems exhausted. He comes home to this?" I tried to stand my ground. "Kayla, I dress for myself, not for Matthew. And he's tired because he works hard, not because of my outfit." But it was futile. Kayla had made up her mind about me, and nothing I said swayed her. Matthew's lack of support wounded me deeply. Every night after his mother left, we'd argue. "Why won't you defend me, Matthew? She's bulldozing over us and you just stand by. Janice, she's set in her ways. What do you expect me to do? Kick my mom out?" "No, but I expect you to be my partner, to stand with me, not against me." It became clear that this situation was more than just Kayla's disapproval. It was a test of our marriage, of whether we could endure the relentless onslaught of Kayla's criticisms. As the weeks passed, it dawned on me that this wasn't a temporary phase. It was a full-blown assault. If we didn't take action soon, there might not be anything left to salvage. The atmosphere between Matthew and me had turned icy, exacerbated by Kayla's intensified critiques. Life at home had become unusually tense, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Matthew was keeping something from me. It wasn't just the usual stress of his job. There was an unsettling change in his behavior that hinted at deeper secrets. It began subtly with his phone habits. Matthew, who had always been an open book, started to step out of the room for calls, particularly those from someone named Austin, allegedly a new colleague who had a lot of questions. One quiet evening, trying to keep the conversation light, I asked, "Who's this Austin at work?" Matthew's reaction was instant and telling. His body stiffened and he looked away, a clear signal of his discomfort. "Just a new guy at the office, really inquisitive," he answered too quickly, avoiding my gaze. But there were more troubling signs. Matthew, previously indifferent to fashion trends, began transforming his wardrobe. Out went the graphic tees and faded jeans, replaced by neatly pressed shirts, sleek trousers, and even cologne, a new scent that clung to him each morning. "What's with the new look? Planning to model for a department store catalog?" I joked one morning as he fixed his hair in a new style. He just gave a nonchalant smirk. Why not spruce things up a bit? No harm, right? But the late nights started to pile up too. "Sorry, love, this project is killing me. I'll be home late," his texts read night after night, and it would often be the early hours of the morning before I heard the turn of his key in the door. Something felt wrong, a gnawing sense that wouldn't go away. Driven by a mixture of fear and need for the truth, I hired a private investigator, a decision that felt ripped from a melodramatic detective series. The results were as dramatic as the decision itself. A plain envelope filled with photographs and a voice recording. The images showed Matthew with another woman, their closeness undeniable, while their intimate conversations on the recording shattered any illusions. Here was a man in love, but not with me. As I absorbed the shock, sitting alone with the cold truth laid bare on my kitchen table, I realized these pieces of evidence could be critical if our marriage dissolved into a divorce. The photographs stole scenes from our shared life, turning them into fragments of betrayal. The voice recording mocked every tender word he had ever spoken to me. Yet, I kept this devastating discovery to myself, bearing the weight of heartbreak alone. I wasn't ready to confront him, not just yet. I needed time to plan, to figure out how to approach the likely end of our marriage with some semblance of grace. In the following days, Matthew and I continued our charade. He wore the mask of the affectionate husband, and I played the role of the content wife, our exchanges peppered with artificial laughter and hollow words. "Everything all right?" he would ask, concern painting his voice. "Just tired, work's been crazy," I'd reply, the lie tasting sour in my mouth. Then one day, as I passed by Matthew's slightly open office door, the truth finally spilled out. Matthew and Kayla were discussing not trivialities, but the future of our relationship with grave seriousness. "I can't do this anymore, Mom. It's not about Janice not having kids, it's more than that. I feel like we're just coexisting, not really together," Matthew confessed, his tone weary. Kayla's response was sharp as a knife. "But Matthew, think about it. She hasn't given you a child. What else does she bring to our family? But let's not rush. My 60th birthday is just around the corner." Their words, heavy and cold, confirmed the lonely path ahead. This wasn't just a rough patch. It was a profound disconnect that might not be mended. As I stood there, the fabric of our marriage unraveling, I knew decisions lay ahead that would redefine my future. We couldn't miss out on a generous gift from her, could we? Kayla's words, dripping with cynicism, pierced me deeply. They had a plan: keep me around just long enough to enjoy the lavish gifts from her upcoming birthday celebration before unceremoniously cutting ties. "Just a bit longer," Kayla had said with a venomous smirk. I stood frozen, fury and disbelief coursing through me. It was clear they intended to discard me as easily as one would cross off an item on a grocery list. The sting of betrayal ignited a fiery determination within me. They saw me as a mere pawn in their twisted game, but I was resolved to show them I was no one's fool. A few days later, we sat down to a family dinner that felt more like a staged play than a warm gathering. Kayla, with a calculated smile, turned to me. "So, Janice, dear, what do you have planned for my birthday? Something special, I hope?" I met her gaze with a calm that belied my inner turmoil. "Actually, Kayla, I've been thinking about arranging a dinner at the city's most exclusive restaurant, an evening you won't forget." Her eyes sparkled with greedy anticipation as she exchanged a satisfied look with Matthew. They thought they had cornered me, but little did they know I was already steps ahead in a different game. "Oh, Janice, that sounds wonderful. Just close family, keep it intimate," Kayla purred with feigned sweetness. "Absolutely, Kayla. We'll make it a night to remember," I responded, the words tasting of ashes in my mouth. The weeks leading up to Kayla's 60th birthday felt like marching toward a day of reckoning. Each of Kayla's smirks and Matthew's dismissive nods only fueled my resolve. My plan was simple yet bold. Host the lavish dinner as a supposed gesture of goodwill, then spring a monumental surprise. As the plans unfolded, the devil lay in the details. The night before the party, our home was charged with silent tension. Matthew, unaware of the brewing storm, lounged on the couch, absorbed in his phone. "Everything ready for tomorrow?" he asked without looking up. "You could say that," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm within. The day arrived, and as guests filled the opulent dining room we had reserved, the air was thick with anticipation. My heart raced, not with nerves, but with the thrill of imminent revelation. Kayla, basking in the spotlight, reveled in the grandeur. "Oh, Janice, you've truly outdone yourself. This place is divine," she announced, her voice carrying across the room. As the evening progressed, laughter and stories filled the air, masking the undercurrents of the gathering. Just as dessert plates were cleared, the moment I had been waiting for arrived. The waiter approached discreetly and whispered the staggering cost of the dinner, $10,000. I handed over my credit card, unnoticed by most. Then, as if on cue, Matthew dropped his bombshell. "Janice, it's time for the truth. I'm done with this, with us. I want a divorce," he declared, his words cutting through the festive noise and suffocating the atmosphere. Before I could process his words fully, Kayla, sharp and decisive, interjected. "Well, now that it's out in the open, it's best you leave, Janice. Tonight is about family and, well, you're no longer part of ours." The room fell into stunned silence, every gaze fixed on me, yet I refused to crumble. With a composure I scarcely felt, I rose from my seat, nodded, and walked out without a word. The chill of the night air hit me as I left, the weight of finality crashing over me as I made my way to a friend's apartment. The night closed in, a stark reminder of the cold journey ahead, but I walked on, resolved to start anew from the wreckage of what once was. With steely determination setting in, I finalized my plans and packed my essentials, transforming the numbness of betrayal into decisive action. This was the close of one chapter and the beginning of another. As I zipped up my last suitcase, my phone began to buzz insistently. I tried to ignore it, but curiosity eventually won over. Kayla's frantic voice blared from the other end. "Janice, the payment didn't go through. You need to fix this right away," she demanded. The irony of the moment was bittersweet. In my preparations, I had foreseen such a move and had already blocked access to our shared accounts, anticipating it might be Matthew's first line of defense. "Oh, Kayla, what a shame. But since I'm no longer part of the family, as you've made abundantly clear, I'm afraid you'll have to sort this out yourself." Her fury crackled through the phone, a melodious sound to my ears after the betrayal I'd endured. The chaos that followed was the perfect ending to the farce my marriage had become. I heard stories of the restaurant staff demanding payment, Kayla's escalating tantrums, and eventually the police arriving to calm the storm she had whipped up. In the end, it was Matthew and his family who were left to scramble to cover the bill, a fitting end to their deceit. The morning after the dinner was like waking up after a storm. I returned to what was once our shared home for one final time, divorce papers in hand, ready to confront whatever remained of our relationship. The atmosphere was electric, almost tangible as if it could be sliced with a knife. Matthew and Kayla were in the midst of a heated discussion, their animosity palpable. "You've got some nerve showing up here after last night," Matthew spat, his expression twisted with anger and disbelief. "Great! You've humiliated us in front of the entire city. Do you understand the humiliation of having the police called because of your antics? People were laughing, filming," Kayla added, her words sharp as knives. I faced their fury with a calm I scarcely felt inside. "Shame? Is that your primary concern right now?" I retorted, throwing the divorce papers on the table and placing the damning photos of Matthew's infidelity on top of them. Matthew's face went pale as he picked up the photos, his mother looming over his shoulder. Their anger quickly dissolved into shock, then morphed into panic as the gravity of the situation sank in. "And let's not overlook the prenup, shall we?" I continued, my voice steady and unwavering. "You stray, you pay. Precisely $320,000. Kayla's face twisted into a snarl. "You wouldn't dare. You can't do this to us." "Oh, but I can and I will," I retorted, my voice devoid of warmth, resolute in my decision. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, Matthew changed his approach. "Please, let's discuss this. We can find a solution." A bitter, mirthless laugh escaped me. "Find a solution? Do you think a few words can undo everything?" "No, Matthew, it's over." Kayla, ever the manipulator, tried to soften her tone, dripping with false concern. "Janice, darling, think about what you're doing. This will destroy us. That ship has sailed, Kayla. You should have thought about that before." Their pleas turned to desperate entreaties, their words a frantic attempt to salvage whatever dignity remained. But the time for words had passed and the moment for action had arrived. My resolve was unyielding. I was done being the victim, finished with their deception and manipulation. In the end, Matthew had no choice but to borrow money from his parents to settle the financial arrangements with me. As I walked away from that house for the last time, check in hand, I felt an immense weight lift from my shoulders. After everything that had transpired, I was finally free. I used the money from Matthew to make a down payment on a modest yet cozy place of my own. It's incredible how much peace you can find in a home that's entirely yours, where every nook feels like a sanctuary from the storms of a past life. Now, life is quieter, and that's exactly how I prefer it. I have a job that keeps me busy, friendly neighbors who greet me with smiles, and a small garden that's mine alone to cultivate. Occasionally, I hear bits of gossip about Matthew and Kayla. Just the other day, while picking up coffee from the local cafe, a popular spot in the community, I ran into someone I knew from the old neighborhood. After exchanging pleasantries, they leaned in, their voice dropping to a hush, and said, "Hey, have you heard the latest about your ex and his mom?" Their eyes sparkled with intrigue. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued yet detached. "Can't say that I have, do tell." They seemed to savor sharing the gossip. Apparently, Kayla isn't too pleased with Matthew's new girlfriend. Rumor has it they've been arguing nonstop. It puts your past situation in a new light, doesn't it? We quickly moved on from the topic, but as I walked away with my coffee, I felt a deep sense of relief. There was a time when such news would have disturbed me, but now it was just another story in someone else's drama. These days, my biggest concerns are whether my tomatoes will ripen before the squirrels get to them, or if I'll ever master yoga without looking like a newborn deer. Life is simpler, quieter, and significantly more satisfying on this side of the chaos.